So 10 tips for building self-esteem. I'm really looking forward to making this video. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't often do a tip-based video, but I've learned a lot about building self-esteem from a personal point of view. I had absolutely terrible self-esteem growing up until, I'll be honest, until my 20s. And I've also learned the majority of it through my professional work, working with clients, predominantly in the space of developing a healthy relationship with food and good body image. You know, that's the main part of what I do in my career, but a huge part of that, as you can probably imagine, is developing self-esteem, core self-esteem. Why might you be interested in this topic? Well, because when you have low self-esteem, when someone has low self-esteem, it can wreak havoc in multiple areas of life. It can bring anxiety, a lack of fulfillment, difficulty in relationships, negative body image, and then disordered eating. And when we think of a stereotypical person with healthy self-esteem, you know, strong self-esteem, not arrogance, strong self-esteem, life just tends to be easier for them. They know who they are, they know what they stand for, they know where their boundaries are, they feel deserving of good things, and therefore they don't tolerate things that harm them, that don't work for them, and therefore their lives, generally speaking, just tend to be more fulfilling. I've spoken about that in another video, which I highly recommend that you check out. It's called, I believe it's called, it's get what you tolerate, or something along those lines. But in that video, I'm laying out logically, you know, whatever it is that we tolerate, then that is what is most likely to fill up our lives, right? So someone with healthy self-esteem, kind of stereotypically speaking, because they feel deserving of love, they feel deserving of respect, they have that expectation when they go out into the world, because they feel like they can dare to dream and go after their goals, that they are allowed to be there taking up space. That's what their expectation is of the world. And if your expectation of the world is, you know, I give respect and therefore I would expect respect, you're not going to be tolerating disrespect, right? So when that comes along, if disrespect comes along to someone with healthy self-esteem, they're like, that's not what I would expect. That feels wrong. Okay, I'm just going to distance myself from that. And therefore it gets removed out of their life in order to fill up space. Do you see what I mean? We get what we tolerate. I'm a big fan of that as a concept, and you can watch more about that in this video, which I'll link up here. So back to the point. Tips for developing self-esteem from my experience. Tip number one, understand what it is that we are asking for when we ask for self-esteem. Now, this may seem obvious or a little bit silly, but I've learned that it's categorically incredibly important, because sometimes or often someone with low self-esteem or shame has this sense of, I need to fix myself. I'm not acceptable as I am. There's something wrong with me. There's something bad about me. I need to become something else, or become the best version of myself, as it were, in order to like myself and feel good about myself. And that's a shame-based cycle which forever keeps us chasing feelings of self-worth. What self-esteem is, or at least how I like to think about it, is I accept myself as I am today in this moment. It doesn't mean that I'm saying that I'm perfect. Of course I'm not. I'm human. I'm not going to be perfect. What would that even mean anyway, right? That means I accept myself as I am. I care about myself, and I recognize that I am good enough and I am okay as I am, right here in this moment and today. My second tip for you is understand that if there is shame there, or that there is low self-esteem there, that first idea as a concept may seem completely abhorrent. Well, I can't accept myself as I am right now because I'm broken, or there's something wrong with me, or I'm not good enough. So if I accept myself as I am now, then I'm just going to be accepting this broken version of myself, and then no one's going to accept me. I'm going to be rejected. I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life. I'm being deliberately hyperbolic there, but that is also the reality for a lot of us that have low self-esteem, that it can feel like an absolutely abhorrent idea to accept ourselves now, or even learn how to accept ourselves now. And recognizing that trap, that loop that you're in, if this applies to you, is my second tip for you. If someone has low self-esteem or shame, then that might mean that they don't want to work on self-acceptance and self-love, which would build self-esteem. And we need to build that self-esteem in order to recognize, oh, there was never anything wrong with me. I see it now. I thought that there was, but there wasn't ever anything wrong with me. My third tip for you is understand the difference between self-esteem and self-love and self-respect and external validation. Chasing external validation will never give us our self-esteem, in my experience. Why? Because there's a key word in self-esteem, and that is self. People can't give it to us. Sure, it feels good when we get external validation, when we're struggling with low self-esteem. It feels great, we get that high. And that kind of teaches our brain, hey, if you want to feel good about yourself, continue to chase that. And that would be very logical and that makes sense. Except that external validation is always vulnerable. We cannot control fully whether we get that external validation or not. And in the pursuit of trying to get it, we are constantly chasing, we are exhausting ourselves, we are abandoning ourselves. We are not living authentically, and we are not living in alignment with ourselves. We are people pleasing. And that very chasing is the very thing that can erode self-esteem. Why? Because self-esteem is often built on, I know myself, I'm taking care of my needs, I'm taking care of myself, I'm living in alignment with my values, as it were, I'm being authentic. All of that is proving to ourselves, I matter and I'm okay as I am and I've got my back, and I'm teaching myself essentially, I matter to me. The fourth tip that I have for you, or it's more like a strategy, if you like, is, in my experience, it's really hard to go from, let's call it shame, there's something wrong with me, there's something bad about me, I don't like myself or I hate myself, to self-love. I love myself, I respect myself, I'm okay as I am. That is too much of a leap for most of us, right? And I got this idea of this strategy from a client I was working with last year who was talking about a book that she read, and that book was saying, you can't go from sad to happy. That's too much of a leap. You need to go in the stages, right? Like from sadness to acceptance to optimism to happiness, for example. So if you are here in shame or feelings of unworthiness, or like there's something wrong with you, my invitation to you would be, don't put the expectation on yourself that you can just jump straight to feelings of self-love. Maybe let's stage it out. And what would those stages look like? Well, I've seen clients have a lot of success. I've used this myself personally as well. I've seen clients also have a lot of success when we're working on self-esteem by moving through these stages. I don't like myself, I don't accept myself. To, I acknowledge myself. I acknowledge my thoughts, my feelings, my wants, my needs. I acknowledge I'm happy, I acknowledge I'm hungry, I acknowledge that I'm enjoying making this video, I acknowledge. From there, moving into I acknowledge without placing an opinion onto it, right? So you might be very used to, I acknowledge I feel sad and I shouldn't feel sad and it's wrong to feel sad. Or I acknowledge that I'm judging myself and I shouldn't judge myself, that's wrong. Often when we're struggling with low self-esteem, we love to add judgments and opinions onto our thoughts, our feelings, our wants, our needs, our motivations. And this stage is all about acknowledging without adding an opinion onto it. It's just, I acknowledge I am sad, full stop. I acknowledge that I'm happy, full stop. I acknowledge that I'm angry. I acknowledge that I want more money. I acknowledge that I need rest, full stop. In my experience, once someone gets there, then they've moved into a state of self-acceptance. Self-acceptance really, in my opinion, is just the state of acknowledgement without judgment. A lot of clients who are struggling with low self-esteem are really scared of self-acceptance because they think that it means that they are saying that they are perfect. But acceptance is just acceptance without an opinion on it. We're not saying it's good, bad, right, wrong, left or right, none of that, it just is. Then once someone's got to that place of self-acceptance, then moving into that state of, I care, actually. I care that I'm judging myself. I care that I'm angry. I care that I'm happy. I care that I want more money. Now we've moved into a state of self-care. And the more that we practice that, and the more that we're in tune with that, then that's what kind of cultivates those feelings of wholeness and self-love and self-esteem, or can go a long way in it. Sorry, my camera died. I could talk to you for ages about that strategy alone, and with clients I do, we spend at least a few sessions on it, because I recognize that it probably raises a lot more questions than it answers, for example. But if I'm not judging myself or having an opinion on my emotions or my thoughts or my actions, then how do I know what to do, right? And I'm very happy to dive deeper into that topic if that's something that you'd find helpful. Just let me know down in the comments. You also very welcome to book in for a discovery call with me if you want to talk about your self-esteem and get coaching, potentially get coaching in your self-esteem and your sense of self-worth. Typically, the coaching that I do is very centered around developing a healthy relationship with food and good body image. But more and more recently, as I find that I'm doing so much coaching in self-esteem and self-worth anyway, I would like to open up some spaces with clients where we're just kind of focused on that. So if that's something that you're interested in, you want to talk to me about it and see what kind of work we could do together, or if I'm the right person to help, then you're very welcome to book in for a discovery call specifically to talk about that, and we can see where it goes. Very happy to help if I can. Tip number 5 that I have for you. Understand the difference between a codependent relationship and an interdependent relationship. And I really invite you to look these up, understand the difference between them. Very, very relevant when we're talking about self-esteem. Why? Because low self-esteem not only fuels codependent relationships, in my experience, but the codependent relationships then fuel the low self-esteem, and it goes around and around in a cycle. Why does that happen? Well, because in codependent relationships, we're saying, I, as the people pleaser, am responsible for your emotions, how you feel, how happy you are. My job is to add value into your life, to control having you in my life. I'm responsible for fulfilling your needs, fulfilling your values, and basically making sure that you're happy all of the time. I'm exaggerating, but also not really. And that might have been the model that we learnt growing up. It certainly was the model that I learnt growing up. And when we find ourselves in those kind of dynamics, what that means is, well, I'm constantly pouring into you. I'm not pouring into me. I'm not checking in with what I need, what feels right to me, because that's irrelevant. If I were to take care of that, then I'm not taking care of you. And then you might just abandon me or reject me or leave me because I'm not adding value into your life. So now I'm in a position where I'm not taking care of my needs or my values. I'm not taking responsibility for that and pouring into that. And that is the very thing that I need to do in order to build self-esteem and have good self-esteem. And the number one fear that people have when they're codependent, in my experience, is, but if I stop being codependent, then surely I'm going to be alone. And that's why I'm inviting you, if this resonates, to look up the difference between a codependent relationship and an interdependent relationship. Of course, not only can you have great self-esteem and take care of yourself and have relationships, but relationships develop and blossom when each individual party is doing that. And in my experience, learning what an interdependent relationship is, a secure attachment style relationship, that almost kind of gives you your rule book of what having healthy self-esteem means and looks like and what it's tangibly made of. Tip number 6 I have for you. It's okay to disappoint people. If you are terrified of disappointing people, or it makes you feel really uncomfortable to the point that you are mind reading what other people may or may not want from you, and then trying to act accordingly, then it's really helpful in my experience to recognize 2 things. One, disappointment is a normal part of healthy relationships. In healthy relationships, sometimes I'm going to get what I want and what I need, and sometimes you're going to get what you want and what you need, and therefore disappointment is just going to be a normal experience for both of us in small ways. And the second thing is that while you are out there fearing disappointment and trying to avoid that at all costs, it's only going to lead down the path of people pleasing and resentment and a disregard of your own needs and an eroding of self-esteem. So my tip in there for you is learn about disappointment, how it's a normal and healthy part of relationships. And I'm not talking about deliberately setting expectations with friends like, yes, I'll help with that, and then letting everybody down. That's not what I'm referring to. There is a big difference between me saying to my friend, yes, I will help you move, and committing to that, and then letting her down. There's a big difference between that and my friend asking me for help and me feeling obligated to say yes, thinking that it's my responsibility as a friend to ensure that my friend is never disappointed in that way. When we have low self-esteem and we are people pleasing this way, we put so much pressure on ourselves, because pressure seems to come from all different angles. I need to do so much and be so many different things so that I never disappoint someone. No, it is a normal part of relationships. For if my friend asks me to move, maybe I say yes, or maybe I need some rest and I say no. And that type of disappointment, perfectly normal, perfectly healthy. And I really invite you to learn more about that, because fearing that kind of disappointment and having that pull on us like a puppet on strings only means that we're just disregarding our needs more and more. And then, of course, comes the erosion of self-esteem. And it's not something that you have to do in order to have healthy relationships. In fact, quite the opposite. Tip number 8 that I have for you is Understand that there is no right, wrong, or good or bad. Someone with low self-esteem might find themselves very much in rule-bound thinking, rule-bound land. It is right to go to the gym. It is wrong to watch Netflix. It is right to be kind to people, and it is wrong to be angry with people. And they get very overwhelmed, and they can use these rules as a weapon to shame and judge themselves, because seemingly they're constantly doing stuff which is wrong. Self-esteem, in my experience, comes from, in part, recognizing that there is no right, wrong, good or bad. There is only, how does it feel right for me to show up for myself and others? How do I want to show up for myself and others? And recognizing that in any given moment, that's going to be entirely context dependent. Who can say that anger is wrong and kindness is right? Surely it depends on the circumstances. If we have right, wrong, good or bad, we will have self-judgment. And you may ask, well, how do I know how to be if I don't have a set of rules, a set of right, wrong, good or bad? And that's where intuition comes in and a knowing oneself comes in. How do I want to show up for myself and others? Not how do I think that I should? Don't go down that trap again. But how do I want to show up for myself and others? What feels right to me? And letting that lead our choices and our learning process, not the rules. I hope I haven't really confused you on that one. But again, if you have questions about that, or if I've confused you, please just leave questions down below and I'm happy to go through them. Tip number 9 that I have for you for developing self-esteem is someone with healthy self-esteem is far more focused on and interested in how they are showing up, and if they're showing up, how they want to show up for themselves and others, versus someone with low self-esteem. I'm generalizing here, it's not true for everyone, but someone with low self-esteem may be far more focused on how they are being perceived. So it's the difference between, I want to show up with respect that feels right to me, so I'm showing up with respect for this other person, regardless of whether they perceive me to be respectful or not. It's not about that. It's about how I'm showing up. I can't control how they perceive me. And I feel good about myself and I feel aligned with myself if in this moment I'm showing up with respect that feels right to me. Versus, how do I need to show up in order for them to perceive me to be respectful? So healthy self-esteem versus low self-esteem sometimes involves the question of, what are you attached to? Are you attached to how you're showing up, or are you attached to people's responses? Someone with healthy self-esteem, they know themselves, they know how they want to show up, they know how to live in alignment with themselves, and they feel good when they are doing that, regardless of results, regardless of responses. Whereas someone with low self-esteem may be all about other people's perception, and they feel good when they are perceived in certain ways. And so it's back to that seeking external validation point that I was making. And the final tip that I have for now, I do have more, but the final one for now, which has helped so many clients, so I hope it's equally as kind of groundbreaking for you as it has been for some of my clients. Recognize that you are not a project. You are not something that needs fixing. Your shame might try to tell you otherwise, but you are not a project. You do not need fixing. If you have that model of yourself that I'm a project, I need fixing, you will be forced into this constant state of chasing and trying to fix. And it's a never-ending journey, and you know it if you're on it. The other model or attitude that I've seen people use to develop self-esteem genuinely is not how do I become, how do I fix, how do I chase, but how do I live more and more in alignment with myself? That, in my experience, is what actually gives that feeling of wholeness, completeness that someone is looking for through the chasing, which they're never going to find through the chasing and the fixing. And someone might say to this, yeah, but naturally, if I'm just left to my own devices, I lie all of the time. So why would I want to live more and more in alignment with that? No, that's not the point. Ask yourself, is lying how I want to show up for myself and others? Does that feel right to me? And if the answer is no, it feels more right for me to be honest and authentic and real and genuine with people, then that is the thing that you're coming into alignment with. Do you see? Understand the difference between the behaviors, some of the behaviors that you currently do because of conditioning, versus what feels right to you as a way of showing up for yourself and others. Okay, those are my 10 tips for now. I hope that this was helpful for you. I'm very happy to make another video like this if you would like. Just let me know in the comments or give this a thumbs up if you'd like to see more of these. And again, if you're interested in potentially having coaching about your self-esteem, developing self-esteem, then I'm very happy to explore that with you. We can start with just having a discovery call so I can get to know you, you can get to know me, and see if we can do good work together in that area. See if I can help. Thank you so much for watching, lovelies, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.